Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the current weather and then looking at the forecast for Christmas and a little bit beyond that, and looking at whether it's going to be a white Christmas, if there's going to be snow, and where, how much, that kind of thing. We'll start off though by looking at the current weather. As you can see, it's really rainy across parts of the kind of south. You can see you have this large area of rain which is moving into London now. You can see it's been moving kind of eastwards, slightly northeastwards, with some gusty winds. Could be some localised kind of flooding problems in places. You can see we'll also have showers across parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland, quite a large area of rain across western Scotland. Could cause a few kind of minor flooding problems there. And then you can see it's also quite windy at the moment actually. We have winds of 64 miles an hour at St Mary's, and then we have winds kind of 40 to 50 miles an hour kind of spreading inland across southern England and a southwest. So quite windy, a massive change. It's actually like 12 degrees or 15 degrees in places. A complete change to the last kind of 2 weeks when it's been really cold. So now that's out of the way, we'll look at the potential for kind of cold weather across much of the UK on Christmas. And so we'll start off by looking at some of the models. This is the American model. Just a quick reminder of how these kind of work. The colours are precipitation, purple is snow, and the other ones are kind of a rain. The black lines are isobars, or lines of equal pressure, and then around low pressure systems the wind flows anti-clockwise around isobars, and around high pressure systems the wind flows clockwise. So you can see this is today. We're going to go through all the past runs. We'll start off with yesterday's 6 o'clock run to see how the trends evolved, and you can see starting off very unsettled. And then what happens as we move into Christmas is that we get, actually I'll just move this to the North Atlantic, this is better. You can see we get kind of renewed development of high pressure to the kind of north. I'll get this pen out here. We can see we get renewed development of high pressure to the north of kind of, or not in the North Atlantic basically. So you can see we get high pressure, and then we get that colder air attempting to kind of move down, have a low here, winds coming in like this. So then we start to get that kind of battleground scenario setting up by Christmas time on this run, where we have eventually, so we have a low pressure pushing in like this, and then it kind of moves away, and then eventually what happens on this run is that we let in a much colder airflow just in time for Christmas, like this. As you can see, high pressure here, winds flowing like this, and then you can see we get that cold air coming through with snow showers across the north. So that was the 6 o'clock run. If I show you the 12 o'clock run to see what kind of happens, you can see similar evolution. We have that high pressure to the north developing, and then we kind of have that battleground scenario of the low moving in, or trying to move into the UK, and it's kind of pushing against that high pressure system. And then what happens is kind of the high pressure winds out, the high pressure winds out, and then we get that kind of northerly flow like this. You can see that purple showing it's turning to snow like that, and then even we get kind of a few lows moving in from the south, potentially bringing a few snow events like that. That was a 12 o'clock run for Christmas. It actually did bring technically what would be a white Christmas, snow showers across the north and snow across the south. If that was to verify, that would have been a white Christmas. And then looking at the 6 o'clock run, you can see it's kind of similar thing. We all get that high pressure, and then we actually on this one, interestingly, we get a proper battleground scenario with a low pressure system, a warm front. Actually, I'll just change the colour. Clear. We get that. Oh, that's way too big. Sorry. We get that warm front setting up. That's actually also a bit too small. This should be better. So we get that warm front like that, and then that's also too big. Anyways, this should be good. We get that warm front setting up, and then it bumps into that colder air like that, and then we end up getting quite a significant snow event on Christmas Day. And now this is only hypothetical, and then you can see we get that high pressure, the winds coming in from the north, and snow showers and snow in places. So that's only hypothetical. And then if we show you the latest one, this morning's run, this is the most up-to-date information. You can see we get kind of a similar thing as high pressure sets up across parts of Greenland, you can see where that colder air is, because you can see that's where it's turning pink. So the colder air is marked like that. And then as we go into Christmas, by that weekend, then we get low pressure systems kind of extending like this, cold air on the northern side, and then we get on Christmas a few lows bringing snow, and then if we look at the air temperature, I'll clear this, you can see it's quite split, cold across the north and then snowy across the south, though eventually we do get a kind of colder burst pushing through. So just by looking at all that, what we can kind of denote is that there's quite a strong signal for, and I'll show you the ensembles. What we can kind of see is that there's a strong signal for high pressure to set up to kind of in the North Atlantic, Iceland up towards Greenland. There's a strong signal for that. There's also a fairly strong signal for low pressure to kind of be moving into the UK like this. And then what happens is that we kind of get this repeated idea of a sort of battleground. If I get rid of this, kind of a battleground of lows trying to move up like this, and then the high trying to push that kind of cold air south, and then we get quite a north-south split with potentially significant snow where two kind of air masses are colliding. So that means that while it's not looking like it's going to be super cold across all of the UK, there is a potential that on Christmas or around Christmas time we could see fairly significant snow or cold somewhere across the UK, especially across the northern areas. And if we look at the European model to get a kind of another idea, you can see it's fairly similar to the GFS actually. We get that high pressure to the north, and then we get kind of the low pressure moving in like this from the southwest, trying to kind of push into UK, and then we get that low on Christmas clears away, and by Boxing Day we have a kind of northerly flow with cold, let's clear this, with kind of cold air across the UK. And so the general pattern, as you can tell, is the same, with kind of the low and a high like this and then like this, but the small details are quite uncertain, especially regarding if it's going to snow at all. It's just we know that the potential is there. And if we look at some kind of ensembles to get a better idea, we can look at the ensemble snow depths just to kind of have a vague idea of what's happening across kind of, actually red is a good colour. You can kind of to get a vague idea. This is for Edinburgh. You can see we have heightened snow potential on the ensembles all the way from the 23rd until the 28th. So there's heightened potential, including on Christmas Day, for kind of snow and cold for about 5 days, with some potentially significant scenarios, but you can see the average picking up there to around 1 centimetre. So chance for snow all the way through this period. If we look at, for example, London, you can see here, get that pen out, the chance is much lower. You can see we do have a small signal around the 24th, lasting until kind of the 28th, but really it's much lower, with only kind of a significant rise around there. And then if we go to somewhere in the middle, maybe like Manchester, you can see it's kind of in between the two, with kind of, you can see the signal extending through kind of the mud, sorry, but nothing actually it's not as big as the Edinburgh one, but actually it's kind of a stronger signal than London. So what this kind of suggests is that across the UK, and I'll use this ensemble map to show quite nicely, across the UK there's going to be quite a significant split. So we're going to have, this is on the 26th, so you're going to have high pressure kind of moving up into the North Atlantic like this, trying to push down a northerly, and then we have low pressure kind of extending and trying to move in like this, and then what we're going to have is likely across the UK a split between the south, where it's going to be more mild, and the north, where it's going to be cold. And then on the northern edge of any lows we could have snow, but there is uncertainty, like I said, on where that low is potentially going to be, and if there's even snow at all, because if something kind of goes wrong regarding the kind of like snow potential in general, we might not even get snow, might all be rain. To kind of get a better idea of the general temperatures, I'll use the meteograms, or something definitely gone wrong here, but you can see, so this is the meteogram for London. You can see the wider, we're looking at this section here, you can see the wider the kind of colours, the more uncertainty there is. The red is for the daytime highs and blue is for daytime lows. And you can see the next kind of 5 days or so, really good certainty. You can see the boxes are really close together. We know temperatures are going to be mild, approaching 15 degrees in some places. And then, after about kind of Christmas Eve, the uncertainty really increases. Look how wide that box is. Very wide boxes all the way up until New Year's. And that's basically saying, potentially, around Christmas, it could be as mild as kind of 12, 13, 14 degrees. And then potentially, it could be, this is way too extreme in my opinion, it could potentially be as cold in the absolute coldest scenario as kind of minus 10 degrees. So basically, there's a lot of uncertainty that even the average, it's not going to be anything particularly kind of revealing, because the spread is so large. It's not going to be any kind of scenario. It's just going to be the kind of the middle. So basically, after Christmas, we have a lot of uncertainty. And if I show you for Edinburgh as well, you can see basically the same thing. Really, really high uncertainty all the way after Christmas. Sorry, after kind of Christmas Eve. You can see the boxes getting really, really large there. Then potentially, you notice that the kind of clusters are slightly clustered kind of below that 5 degrees, especially kind of Christmas Boxing Day, and then a few days after that, potentially suggesting that in this kind of 3 to 4 day window, we could be looking at a slightly colder spell, a slightly higher likelihood there, and that's kind of is in line with what I'm thinking. If we look quickly at the Ensemble kind of clusters, or sorry, the postage stamps, I can show you this. Red actually is a good colour. So you can see that basically each one of these kind of small pictures is a scenario. The blue line, that kind of, as you can see there, that's showing the kind of snow conducive air, and then this is valid for the kind of Boxing Day, so just after Christmas. And you can see there's still a very wide range of scenarios, but there's a general theme that we might have a low kind of near to the UK. Actually, I'll make this pen size a bit smaller so you can see. You might have a low kind of to the south of the UK, and then you can see that kind of boundary, the blue line of cold air, is kind of all over the place. You can see potentially it's way to the north, potentially it's kind of across half, and you can kind of see as we run through, potentially we get a properly strong high pressure bringing cold northerly, kind of snow conducive air as far as southern England, and you can see it's kind of all over the place. So we do have a general idea that there is a potential for cold and snow around Christmas. The thing is, it's actually still really uncertain. As you can see kind of going through, it could either be that we have north-south split, cold air across the north, warm across the south. Could be that we get cold air as far south as southern England. Could be that the cold air is completely off to the north. So it's just a lot of uncertainty. If we look, though, at the kind of, this is called the Dalmatian plot. This is going to be one of the last things we look at here. Basically, each of these dots is showing different possible positions of low pressure or high pressure. As you can see, we've got quite a strong signal for high pressure here. We have those kind of lighter coloured, more kind of neutral coloured dots. That's indicating high pressure across Greenland. So we've got fairly good signal for high pressure there, which means we can infer kind of a cold airflow like this, at least across this region. And then, however, look, you can see we have a huge kind of spread in a position of possible lows extending all the way from to the southwest of the UK, potentially bringing mild air, all the way to the kind of to the east, which would be more of a cold northerly if that were to happen, all the way even towards kind of Scandinavia, potentially bringing in a more significant northerly like that. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. However, I still think that, especially across Scotland, northern England, we could see that low pressure moving into the cold air and potentially producing significant snow. I'd really watch out for that on the models. That's potentially what could happen. And if this final thing, it looks a bit complicated, but it's actually quite easy to explain. On this side, we have the North Atlantic Oscillation, so the kind of, I think that's actually what it's called, yeah, the North Atlantic Oscillation. So you can see on this side we have basically positive values is kind of more mild westerly weather, and then negative values is kind of more blocked, kind of generally colder with northerlies and northeasterlies kind of type of airflow. Then on this side, this is the kind of blocking index. More positive is more blocked, so more cold air basically, and then more negative is generally more mild. And so you can see this is the, we're looking at these kind of pink colours here. This is for kind of the 192 hours, so approaching Christmas, you can see we have quite a lot of uncertainty, because we have, if I just show you the kind of the potential solutions, that's kind of what the general solutions look like. Potentially, we could have something quite, or not super, but fairly blocked, and kind of a negative NAO, which is potentially cold air, or we could have kind of more mild, and I think this is the UK, yeah, a more mild and kind of more mild and less blocked, so more low pressure dominated weather as we approach Christmas. So basically, there's a lot of uncertainty, but I do think we could see potential, especially judging by these ensemble kind of averages. This got kind of cold, snow conducive air potentially moving kind of towards the Midlands, and then potentially, if we get precipitation bumping into this around Christmas time, we could see some significant snow. So that's kind of what I'd watch out for. I'm going to finish now. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. I'll try and do another update tomorrow.